Hey guys, so you might know what that theme song's all about. That is because for this movie review, I'm going to review the film 007 Spectre. Spectre is the second James Bond film to be directed by Sam Mendes. Sam Mendes is most well known for directing American Beauty, which won Best Picture the year it came out. So it's kind of safe to say Sam Mendes is kind of a notable director in the film industry. Um, this is also the fourth James Bond film to star Daniel Craig as the James Bond character. And Spectre is one of those movies where it wants to take all those earlier films that once starred that actor with who played James Bond and tie them all together. It wants to connect all those films together to kind of make sense of everything from those earlier stories, starting with Casino Royale and well going into 007 Spectre. So for the story of Spectre, you guys, obviously this is going to be a non-spoiler review. So if you haven't seen the film yet, no need to worry. I'm going to try to keep this as spoiler-free as I can. I'm just going to share what I liked and didn't like about the film without spoiling for those who haven't seen the movie yet. So, in the film Spectre, once again, non spoiler review, um, this film is about James Bond getting, files and information about the Skyfall mansion that, happened in the previous movie. And he's slowly starting to realize that there's a man out there who has a huge connection to his past. And he kind of remembers him from what his parents told him about this person. And so basically, he just gets consistently curious about this person, and he's willing to assassinate people to get information about this guy. He's basically willing to do some really extreme things just to learn more and more about this person that really only exists in a file about the Skyfall mansion from the earlier movie. And throughout the movie, while this is going on, I'm really not going to get into detail of why Ralph Fiennes plays M in this movie for those who haven't seen Skyfall, because I really want you to see that movie before watching Spectre, of course. Um, I will tell you that Ralph Fiennes does play M in this movie, and you'll figure out if you've seen Skyfall why that's the case. And he is in a situation where a new MI6 employee who's pretty significant, he's pretty high up there next to M, wants to shut down the Double O agent program. He feels that these agents always betray their leaders all the time, that they're always not obeying orders, that they're always out and about, and they don't really, always stay in the zone where these leaders can reach them in case another mission were to come up and they really needed for that. And they feel that James Bond, because he's such a self-driven secret agent, he's very hard to keep on tasks with these things that MI6 really wants to focus on while Spectre's going on. So the movie also is about that, with M making sure that not only is James Bond going to stay alive and remain on their payroll, but the other agents who also work for that organization are also in safe hands and out of this, free of the Double O agent program that this new employee is really trying to push on everybody. And like I said, a good chunk of the film is about James Bond figuring out this guy and how it's related to his past and how that is kind of relevant to him now and how that should kind of haunt him in a way. So I really like Spectre, you guys. Unfortunately, it's not quite as good as 007 Skyfall because that's a really good James Bond movie, and it's probably my favorite of the Daniel Craig James Bond movies because I know a lot of people like Casino Royale. I was leaning more towards Skyfall when that came out. I really thought that film did a terrific job with everything Sam Mendes had to do with that movie. Spectre is a very good movie, don't get me wrong. Sam Mendes, once again, does a terrific job. He clearly has a passion for the James Bond source material. He really knows a lot about Bond, too, for those who really know a lot about Ian Fleming's take on James Bond, the original author. And I thought Spectre did a lot of things this time around that were really fun. I like how it was really trying to connect those earlier James Bond films and become its own thing while also connecting those films into this one. It was really intriguing to me. So, for my positives and negatives of Spectre, once again, I really like the connection this film made to the earlier James Bond films. The villain of Skyfall, the villain of Quantum of Solace, and the villain of Casino Royale all have a connection to this person that, Christoph Waltz plays in this movie and that James Bond is trying to figure out. And it really works well. Sam Mendes really emphasizes how important those connections were and how they all connect to this man that is obviously the villainous threat to James Bond throughout the course of this movie. There's also some fantastic casting choices in this movie. It's kind of funny actually. When before even Spectre was a script, really, even back when Skyfall first announced that there'd be another James Bond after that, three people that came to mind. Not, two of them obviously right away. The third one not so much, but it was definitely somebody who I was thinking about, who I thought would eventually be a cool addition to the James Bond franchise. Two people that I've always loved to see in a James Bond franchise came true in this movie, and that's Christoph Waltz, who I've always loved as a villainous actor. I'm really glad he had an opportunity here to play a James Bond villain, because I've always pictured him as a James Bond villain in a way, and he definitely got to do it here in this movie. Monica Bellucci, who I've always been a huge fan of. I've loved her since Matrix Reloaded. Once again, always pictured her as a Bond girl, and she's finally getting to do it. Even at the age of 51, she still looks terrific. She plays for what she has to do in this movie. It's not a very big role, unfortunately. For what she has to do, though, terrific job. She's a very terrific actress with a very beautiful body and a very neat presence to her. Really loved how Monica Bellucci finally got to be a part of James Bond. And Lea Seydoux, who definitely was not at the very top of my mind, but somebody who I've always eventually would like to see in a James Bond movie, and we finally got to see that. Just a great casting choice. I really love whoever did the casting for this movie. We gotta become friends or something, because a lot of your choices, whoever you are, were probably going to be my choices for this movie. Just like I said, terrific casting choices. Also, Dave Bautista as the henchman to the lead villain of the movie. Great choice. For those who saw Guardians of the Galaxy, he's a big, threatening little guy, or big, threatening big guy, I should say. And even when I saw him as Drax in Guardians of the Galaxy, I was already thinking to myself, this guy would make a great villainous threat in another movie. And he got to do that here with James Bond. So great, fantastic casting choices to this movie. Then that goes to my next point, which is Christoph Waltz. His character in the movie and his performance are both fantastic. He really nails it whenever he's on screen in this movie. He's not in the movie very long, but when he's in the movie, he is really good. He is really threatening. He is willing to kill you at any moment he has to. He clearly hates James Bond, and it really shows in this movie. Just the character he plays. For those who've seen him in a villainous performance before, he nails it again. I just loved his performance in this movie. I was so blown away by it. Probably, maybe not the greatest role, not the greatest performance I've seen all year round, but possibly one of the best villainous ones. He really was great in this movie. So, huge thumbs up to Christoph Waltz. You are my man. You definitely earned those 2 Oscars that you had for those 2 Quentin Tarantino movies, Django Unchained and Inglourious Basterds. He gives a great performance here again, and 007 Spectre really nails it in this movie. I also like how the film questions Bond's lifestyle. Moneypenny brings it up at one point. Once again, not really a spoiler, just something I really liked in the movie. And the Lea Seydoux character, who was one of the Bond girls in this movie, she brings it up to Bond at a later point in the movie again. And I hope Sam Mendes, if he is doing the next Bond, I hope he continues that question with Bond. I think Bond really wants to settle down and become his own person and start a life and start a personal life even. And the film questions, is the secret agent thing always going to haunt him? Is he always going to have to do this? Is he ever going to settle down? And I like how Sam Mendes brought that up, because he is a human being. He isn't just, 3 years later we see another Bond film. He's a human being in this world. He really is a living, breathing thing. And it's an appropriate question to ask, when are you just going to settle down and be a human being and have a personal life? You're a human. You have every right to be a human. You don't have to do this secret agent thing your entire life. You can have a personal life. And I love how the film brings that up. It's such an interesting thing. And because it is so interesting, I really hope whoever directs the next Bond film, Sam Mendes or not, please continue that. It's a very interesting thing I'd like to see with James Bond more. This is also a well-shot movie. Once again, Sam Mendes, he did a great job with this in Skyfall too. He knows how to shoot a movie. He knows how to frame a scene and how to set it up and how to have great environments to shoot in your movies. He knows how to shoot his movies. He can also see all the action play out in his movies. And I like that, because Quantum of Solace, you can barely see what was going on throughout that movie. Mark Forster really can't handle action that well. He's a great director, though, just not in action scenes. But Sam Mendes, luckily, he knows how to shoot a really good action scene. He's able to do it again here in Spectre. Just a terrific job, Sam Mendes. You shot a really good movie here. And also the Writing on the Wall by Sam Smith, who did the theme song to Spectre. It plays during the opening credits of this film, once again in typical James Bond fashion, with all the Bond girls in the opening credits. Really good theme song. It really just kind of sticks with you. I think it fits the James Bond world well. I know a lot of people really didn't like this new theme song. It probably won't stand the test of time the way that if I can even talk, the way the Adele Skyfall theme song has. But it really sticks with you. I think it's a very appropriate theme song to a James Bond movie, and it really fits Spectre very well for all the messages and story that Writing on the Wall has connections with. For my negatives of Spectre, unfortunately, it's not very careful with details. Um, I won't, like I said, I really want to keep this as as spoiler free as I can. But there's a scene really with the editing that really kind of bothered me where you think Bond's going to do something underwater. You think he has maybe a new gadget that can work underwater in his advantage. It turns into something else in the scene. And if you really listen closely, if you look at the editing closely, it doesn't really add up to very well for what Sam Mendes was trying to do for that scene, how he was trying to conclude that action scene. And it's not the only scene that does this. There's some other scenes that are really not careful with details. So unfortunately, Spectre, if it paid more attention to detail, I think I would have liked it a little bit more. My biggest complaint with Spectre out of everything, though, is it's a very slow-paced movie. I normally don't mind slow-paced movies because I know they have time for character development and they can develop storyline. Spectre is just very slow. It's a very slow-moving movie. It takes a very long time to go from action scene all the way to the next one. It's a very long wait in between action scenes. It's a very long wait between significant story points too. Just a very slow movie. I really wish if Sam Mendes once again does come back for another Bond film, just quicken the pace a little bit. I really like the pacing that was done in Skyfall, and it's too bad that Spectre couldn't continue that pacing. There's also some very forced romance in this movie. Don't want to go into spoilers again. So for those who know me in person, just ask me in person what I really thought about the romance. But is for a non-spoiler review, spoiler free. It's just very forced. When you find out how Bond and these two Bond girls are connected and how the romance, kind of starts up with these two girls, it just feels forced. It really doesn't feel like something that two people in love would fall in love over. You know what I mean? Um, Very forced. Really didn't believe the screen chemistry that much. Great performances. Don't get me wrong. I love Monica Bellucci. She's a great actress. I love Lea Seydoux. She's a great actress. Gives a really good performance here too, by the way. But unfortunately, the screen chemistry they try to have with Daniel Craig really didn't feel that convincing to me. There's also many character loose ends. There's some characters here that get completely ditched at one point. Even the opening scene, there's a character in that gets completely ditched after that scene's done. There's another person who I've been bringing up a lot in this movie who just gets completely ditched after a while. She's never brought up again. She's never spoken of. Just completely ditched. There's other characters in here that have no loose ends at all. I would have liked to see more background details about Dave Bautista's character. He just kind of shows up in one scene, and we just kind of accept him as the henchman of the movie, the villainous henchman. We really don't get to learn a lot about him. He really doesn't have that much dialogue in this movie. I just would have loved to see more character loose ends so I could have a clear cap up of what where certain characters stood by the time the movie was over with. There's also some very cheesy moments here. Just moments where you cannot believe Bond could get out of a situation so well, or get out of a situation and have a single scratch on his body. There's a lot of scenes in Spectre that play out a little bit like that. Um, and I really wish this film had more realism like what Skyfall presented. But overall, I'm going to give Spectre an 8.5 out of 10. This is a very good James Bond movie. Not the best James Bond movie. I think it is a better film, though, than Quantum of Solace for the Daniel Craig era. But it's not quite as good as Skyfall, unfortunately. But like I said, it's a very good movie. It's a very good James Bond movie. So for those who like Skyfall or Casino Royale, I think you'll have fun here. But probably not a better time than you did with those movies. But I would still highly recommend it as a James Bond fan to another. It really is a good film. And please be sure to see Skyfall and Casino Royale before seeing Spectre. I think it'll help people appreciate the movie more. So 8.5 out of 10 for me. Really good James Bond movie. If you haven't seen it yet, please do. It's quite a good movie.